So we're here, member Zoom Hangout, the Three
Yeah.
Musketeers.
Yeah. Hey guys, we've got nachos and cheese and soda for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about the voting application, the voting DAP, also referred to as RV 2020. So Jim, originally that was your idea. So it was your DAP, but with the idea workshop, there was a switching around. So Dan Conley is now involved with the voting DAP. Is it safe to say that it's the voting DAP is his, or is that too strong of a word? Are you're on mute, Jim?
I would say since he's the one who proposed it initially, that he would be leading it.
Leading, okay, at a minimum, he's leading it.
Okay, now if it's not funded, I'm not sure if he'll lead it.
Yeah, well, so I guess what I'm getting to is we want to have a voting DAP up and running for our October annual general meeting. We want to be able to use the RChain platform for any type of voting for directors, voting for IOBs in October. So if that's the goal, then we have to work towards that as that being the goal. So if Dan's on board with, hey, we need to have a functional application to do these types of things in October, great. If not, then then we need to come up with another plan. So that needs to be teased out in Discord or however means to find out what Dan's commitment is. I need to get that understanding. So.
Well, since it was part of the idea tone, like the idea is that you get like some sort of support from the co-op, like for example, preparing the pitch deck, right? Or, maybe helping out with development somehow. So it's kind of, the idea is not that you get the reward directly, that you get it on completion.
Exactly.
So there needs to be like some motivation to actually complete the Ideaton apps. But since voting is kind of part of the co-op, I think co-op should be kind of more involved if they actually want it to be done, basically.
Yeah. So and this is the added co-op involvement. So I guess we recognize that DAM's taking a leadership role on the voting app. We need to gauge his follow through and his commitment. But in any case, we need to, as a co-op, work towards having something usable come October. That's the plan. So we just have to figure out all the steps between right now and how to get to where we want to be. So, and on that main here, let's let Raphael connect here. Bonjour, Raphael.
Bonjour.
So we were just talking about the RChain voting DApp, also referred to as RV 2020. So originally that was Jim's idea, Jim's application, but with the idea workshop, there was sort of a switch around where Dan Conley took a leading role in the voting app. So, and the reason why I'm bringing up this now during the member hangout is we want to be able to use the RChain blockchain in October for voting for our annual general meeting. So that's the goal, is, to have something up and running and usable in October, because in previous years we've used other third parties' application. Well, now we have a blockchain, RChain blockchain, and we want to be able to use that. So with that being the goal in mind, here we are, May 20th, and I guess as a co-op we have to be working towards identifying where we're at and what we need to do in order to get to where we need to be in October. And we had this conversation, we kind of talked about it, and I'm not sure if it was in a member hangout or in governance, but in October. And but now we're in May, and I don't want to be come June and we're no further along than we are in this conversation just talking about it. So I'm just kind of getting kind of picking Jim's brain and Theo's brain, or just getting a sense of if there's anything out there that I don't know or don't understand or misinterpreting. So basically, I think what the thought is, or consensus is, if Dan Conley is taking the lead role, we need to gauge what his interest level is, what his level of commitment is towards the effort. So we, and see if he's on the same page as far as what the ultimate goal is. Have a functioning app up and running for October annual general meeting. So I put a link in the chat, which is a sort of a document to kind of coordinate around this application. And maybe this should go into the GitHub now. I'm not sure if there's a repository on this or not. But I added some notes at the very bottom. Let me share my screen here. So there was so yesterday during the DAP, so we started talking about this during the DAP development session yesterday regarding the voting DAP. And I'm on a very slow computer, so bear with me here. It'll eventually start to share. I'm gonna upgrade one of these days. Okay, so the concern was around, hopefully you guys can see my screen, around anonymity, whether anonymity was a requirement for this voting app. So I brought it up during the board meeting yesterday, and Greg said that no, anonymity is not a requirement. And so I took the best notes that I could. There was more to this, but I just wasn't quick enough with my fingers to type it. But it was primarily the first line. He had made some other comments, but implement a token methodology like last time. So so hopefully maybe Jim, that has more significance to you than to me.
Yeah, that's what I've been calling the tickets.
Okay.
He calls it a token. It's not, I mean, it was basically just, a key that the person could use to vote.
Okay. So, and this links back to the co-op membership to verify membership, which makes sense.
Well,
right.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, link in this this token's going to link back to the co-op membership for that member.
Well, I guess that's another question we should have asked, because there's two concepts of co-op membership now. Okay,
boy.
one is the email addresses that people register with,
Okay.
and the other is the
Discord ID.
the Discord ID. Okay, and it depends on how we define an active member that has voting privileges.
Okay.
Do they have to do the KYC?
Well, let me ask you this. So the whole body of co-op members, so say there's 2,000 co-op members, we would have all emails addresses for all co-op members, but not all co-op members would have a Discord ID.
Right, and have gone through the KYC process.
Right. So if we want to be all inclusive, the email method would be the most inclusive.
Right, and so we could generate 2,000 tokens and email them out.
Okay. Okay. And that, I mean, that way we know it's going to all and not just some, but all co-op members. Okay. So, and I'll go ahead.
I think the best way is to before even deploying something on the blockchain, you some board member send a random, like four numbers to each member of the co-op by email, and then this secret key or secret number must be somehow included in the blockchain with the vote. This way, anyone can vote, but we can make sure that only the votes from valid co-op members will be considered.
Right. So and maybe that goes back to this third point. The co-op issues a rev address to all members.
I would like to add another point, which is like, by doing so, we're kind of forcing people to even pay their own fees to deploy those
no.
votes.
Yeah, we'll use some. Greg mentioned using Dust or issuing rev, so it would be on the it wouldn't be the co-op members paying for it. It would be the co-op. Co-op issuing using rev or Dust, very small amounts in order for the transaction to be processed.
The Dust name is official for the minimal unit.
Oh no, the Dust that there is no official name. That was Greg just using a common reference in cryptocurrency. I think that's Dust is kind of a general term used, a generic term used for very, very small units of cryptocurrency, but it's not any official rev name. Yeah.
Okay.
But okay, this is I've heard Greg talk about this way of voting before, which is not the way we did it before, but it's the way. But he's talked about doing it this way before. So we created a rev address. Okay, one address. Okay, then various people submit. Well, wait a second. Submit votes to that, and well, I mean, one address with different amounts of Dust is one way. Having
2,000 addresses.
Having 2,000 addresses. I'm not sure what the advantage to that would be. An address for each ballot choice would be another way. But, you know, we would have to collect the, we would have to look at how well, I guess if we, I mean, that's possible. I mean, but if co-op's issuing the addresses, then it would have the private key, not the user, right? I mean, it would give the user a private key. I mean, that's not. Would it tell the user what the private key is? I mean, that's
Well,
do it.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to do. You have to generate public private key pairs and then send them to the co-op members through email. Of course, you must consider that email is a secure channel, but I think it's quite secure, especially for very small amounts of dust, just to be used for one vote.
I think we're going to have to ask Greg some questions Friday about what he has in mind here.
Well, so, and that leads to my next question is we need Greg's thoughts on how to architect this thing. Now, I'm not sure if Friday is the best venue for this. I was thinking Monday at Casper Stand Up, because Casper Stand Up is more technical. So Friday is the member closed door session, which is I think geared more towards business related items, and the general meeting today is just general information for the community. So I think it'd be more appropriate for the Monday Casper Stand Up, which is more technical in nature. So
I'm not sure about that. I mean, the voting is certainly co-op business.
Yeah, but we're not.
Stand up is more about consensus. Casper.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, this is co-op business, but this is more of the. I'm just thinking, who is the audience that's on the call? You know, you have 23 people on the Friday closed door session. They're not there to get under the hood and start discussing, you know, public-private key pairs and issuing addresses and so forth. That's not, in my mind, that's not the type of business that they're there for. That's more.
It could be, but you know, what we know is people that are at the Friday session are members, whereas Monday session is for the general public.
And it's okay. Well, and it's recorded as well, and we have access to the recording. So, and if we need to go back and re-listen to what Greg said, as far as what his thoughts were on how to architect this thing, we could go back to rewind the RCast and listen to it again. We can't do that with the Friday session.
That's true. That's true. The other venue would be in the debrief.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the debrief. I'm reluctant to bring this up during the debrief, because now you have an even broader audience of people, and if you're getting into, you know, public-private key pairs and issuing addresses, you're getting down into the weeds of this, and that's the audience listening isn't the audience for that type of discussion.
Could be, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the issue of transparency, it might be the right place, but it might be that appropriate to ask Greg when the appropriate time, you know, when he wants to address this.
Well, we're not using all the time on the Monday Casper stand up. and if I can alert him on between now and Monday that we have some questions regarding voting, he can certainly allot some time on Monday for us to discuss this. So that, you know, Monday yes, I agree, it's regarding Casper and consensus, but it's also, you know, Greg has the freedom to talk about what he's been thinking about in terms of his research. So it's not always about Casper. You know, it's a week or two ago was about block merge. So it can be other topics, and other topics related to technical related topics. So Greg is the CTO, Chief Technology Officer, and you know we have a technical governance group, and we'll bring this up during the technical governance tomorrow as well. But you know, I think that bridge, you know, when we have technical governance issues, just technical questions in general, the time to bring them up is during the Monday Casper stand-up, because that's the only time during the week where those of us who are on this call and others can get on a call with Greg, ask technical questions specifically to him, and he answers them, and it's recorded so we can go back and re-listen to what he said if there's any confusion. So there's lots of pluses in that approach. So with that said, I'll alert Greg that on Monday, you know, we're going to have some questions for him to clarify the thoughts on building the voting DApp. We'll bring this up again. Well, so what I need to do is find out Dan Conley's engagement with this, and see if his goals are in line with what the goals of this, the governance. So the governance committee wants to see a voting application up and running for the October annual general meeting. So the governance committee wants to use the RChain platform for voting in October. So that's the goal. And it's up to the community to figure out how to make that happen. So if Dan's the lead, we need to figure out what his level of engagement is. If he shares that same goal of DApp up and running in October, and if there's any deviation or variation in that, what a backup plan is. And I think a backup plan would be talk about in the technical governance meeting, because we're going to have some developers there who can chime in because this has to be built, this has to be created somehow, and what are going to be the resources to do that. So, and right now I don't have the answers.
Well, kind of my proposed approach kind of offloads a lot of the stuff from RChain, but it uses RChain as a sort of like storage for permanent storage, permanent record of the votes. But the calculations on who voted, like for the final votes, can be done offline. That's the approach I would take. But if we're gonna use like actually do all the calculations on chain, then yeah, that's kind of a different approach. So we have two different approaches.
Yeah, and right now
possibly more
approaches actually, because of the you know, I outlined one approach. We want if you can outline your approach more completely in the document, Theo, that would be good.
Yeah, I kind of explained it briefly in this document. You can just scroll up, but yeah, it's not only those steps. It's kind of a lot of steps in between.
Okay, so we have method 1, method 2.
And then Greg's method, which is method 3.
Let me do that. Okay, method 3. Thank you.
With the tokens?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, I think it's, you just create 2,000 key pairs. You send them by email, and then you create a ERC token with at Genesis 2,000 tokens, which already belong to the 2,000 people.
That would be method 4.
Yep.
So we would
And
have
then
method 4.
then
is
the
the
question
other
is
method.
through which interface the user should update his vote. Like, I vote for this or for that. On a proposed API, but we could use also the Tomislav's like wrapper around MetaMask.
Okay. Raphael or any of you guys could jump in, and I'm not clear on what method 4 is, or here if you want to explain it again. So
create 2,000 key pairs.
Okay. Okay.
Send them by email to the 2,000 co-op members.
Okay.
And then deploy ERC 1155 contract with 2,000 tokens that belong to each identity. You might say, with 2,000 tokens which belong to the 2,000 identities.
Okay.
Because you can have many tokens in one ERC contract. So yes.
Okay, so deploy ERC 1155 contract with the 2,000 tokens, and send to the members. Was that the last piece?
Yes. No, you deploy the contract, and at Genesis you declare that there already is there are already 2,000 tokens. So you don't have to create them afterwards. And then, so basically you have a contract that is available.
Right.
And so people have the, for example, me, since I received the private key by email, I have the power to update this token that belongs to me on the blockchain. So, so yes, step 3 were the right. You can write it again. It was correct.
Okay, so
Okay.
deploy the contract with the 2,000 tokens.
And then, so basically those tokens have no associated data, and
Okay.
the associated data will be the vote of the user. So the last step is provide some website or interface to be able to vote simply. So I think right now there is 2 solutions for it. One is DAPI, the other is MetaMask with Tomislav's library.
So I'm not exactly sure how the votes would be associated with a particular token.
So it's not available right now in the ERC 1155, but it will be because you will be able to associate any kind of data to any kind to token ownership. So so like in this example, there will be 2,000 distinct token ownership, and each one of them. So basically, the owner will be able to add additional data that is linked to the token one owned. So just like, for example, you can own a token that represents a car, and you could associate a color to it, for example. You don't change the token, but you just say, oh, the car is blue or red. So it's kind of some meta information around the tokens.
So, so the meta information, would that be how they vote,
Yes.
or okay?
Basically, the interface, for example, if the votes are yes, no, the meta associated with one token will be just a string yes or a string no, or even Boolean true false. But it can
Okay.
also be any number from 1 to 10, anything you want, some complex object with many information.
Okay.
But will we be able to validate that the vote is correct when it's submitted, or it will have to be checked like before doing any?
Basically, the interface will make sure that the correct stuff is sent to the blockchain. And if some members want to have fun and send some nonsense, the vote will not be valid.
Okay, but how will it not be valid? As a co-op who is gonna count the votes will have to go through all of the tokens and see and read all the metadata, right? And then sum everything up.
Yes. So if it's yes no, so there is some. All these tools are already in the repo ERC 1155. You just read all the token ownerships, and then for each one you get the associated data, and you count the yes, the no, the I don't know, or anything. And yes, for the 4 points, there is two possibility: MetaMask plus Tomislav or DAPI.
Oh yeah. We want to let's put DAPI first.
Yes, and Tomislav's work with MetaMask, so it's
Okay. Okay.
and then yes, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th point, you could just write get all the tokens and go through each metadata.
And that's the manual process, where perhaps it's put into a spreadsheet and tabulated or something.
Yeah, I can like in 20 minutes I can write some programs that get those informations and like turn them into a CSV file, for example.
Okay, that's very helpful. So let me.
The only thing that is not developed is the metadata associated with one. So this is a new concept. I call it bag now. So maybe Theo, you see what I'm talking about, but to avoid confusion, there is bag and tokens. So the metadata associated to a token exists. We saw it with the pizza last time, but now I'm adding metadata associated to one bag. So even if 4 persons own a pizza, they can also attach proper metadata to each one of those ownerships. And the ownership, I call it a bag, simply. But I'm just like,
Okay.
it has no importance right now.
Oh, good to know. Yeah.
So that's it.
Okay. And then the last bullet point that I have on here, the interface, how will the interface verify or create some security?
You can remove it.
Okay.
Because basically this is the 4th point. In the 4th point, we just deploy the website, or the DAPI website is simply a form with, for example, a checkbox for yes and a checkbox for no. So the front end will make sure that they have the proper choices. And then the validation is in the program that does the CSV file. For example, it can just ignore invalid values.
Okay. All right. Okay. So so let's see here. So we have a website that a member goes to, and it has the ballot, and they can vote for, let's see, board members and IOBs, like a yes no for board members, and there's a ballot, 1, 2, or 3, and then they enter in a public key, and then they hit submit, and that information goes to the CSV file, and that CSV file is going to have the information for all 2,000 members who have token pairs, and then we'll have a.
Now you just missed a step in the interface. When you vote, you just basically send a transaction to the blockchain with your vote, and then the blockchain, of course, this is the main code of ERC 1155. It checks your identity. This is in Rolang, and it updates the data associated to your token.
So if you go back on there and try to vote again with your public key, you'll receive a message saying your vote has already been submitted. Or
no, we could just let people revote, but it will be equivalent to changing his vote.
Oh, okay.
By default, the contract allows for erasing as much as you can just erase your vote, because it just replaces it.
Okay.
But this configuration, it's all clear, so anyone can see the vote of. No. So basically, it's cool because since we have sent the key pairs by email, third-party people like me who are not board members cannot know who is who and who voted for who.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Okay. I understand all of that. So of the other 3 methods, I'd have to look at them again. Of everything up to now, method 4 is the clearest in my mind. I can follow it. So well, thank you, Raphael. I appreciate your insight, and it's especially good that we're using some of the infrastructure that you've created. Putting, this is what it's all about. Putting DAPI and our apps, to the test.
I think the best way would be to have the interfaces in both regular web with Tomislav code and eventually DAPI with my code. It could be great.
Okay, so Tomislav's website would be the front end, and then your DAPI would be the back end?
No, basically those are like similar solutions. So if we have enough time, we can develop the form for the two, because basically it's all web, it's HTML and JavaScript. So it will be very easy if I have developed it on DAPI to adapt it for it to run on a regular website. Because maybe some members will not want to download DAPI. So.
Okay, I follow you. So we'll have options available for the user members. They can do it the Tomislav way, or they can go and do it the DAPI way. So understood. Okay.
And those last bullet items apply to all the choices pretty much, except for the CSV data might be there's some way of getting the data off, whether it's tallied on RChain or off RChain is optional, but all of the options involve providing a website or web interface. Okay, a website or DAPI interface. And they both involve storing the vote information. Okay, or no,
Involve storing the voting information on chain.
well, I'm not sure what you're writing down here.
Well, okay. I'm just trying to repeat what you just said in other words.
Maybe Jim, you would like some members also to be able to vote with a command line.
I'm sorry, what?
Maybe maybe we could also provide the role encode. So this would be the third way to vote. So people can directly deploy a role encode with the private key they have received. This way, they don't even have to use any web interface. But the key thing is that we will have created a special key pairs with very few amount of revs. So it's not very risky to even if someone do not trust the API, he has like 20 dust in his account, so that should be fine.
So, Jim, were you speaking to a third way, a command line method of voting, or was it regarding where the vote is ultimately stored, regardless of?
Yeah, in all cases, I think the votes are stored on RChain. The only option is, are we going to just export the data and then have another program computed, or are the votes going to be tallied on RChain itself? And I guess that's that's a matter, and I'm going to copy this whole thing.
Yes, we could go further and have the interface display in real time all the votes and who is currently winning or anything like that also.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the current liquid democracy does all the tallying of votes in Rolang. So we, what we do. So that's an option. That's all.
Okay, so you're saying that liquid, we could incorporate some functionality from liquid democracy?
No. I was just saying that you can have it tallied offline, or you can write a contract to do the tally. Either way, he's saying he's saying export the data. An alternative is to tally the data online.
Okay.
In Rolang. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, this was helpful.
Okay, and I copied these steps up to method 1 as well.
Okay. All right.
I don't know, but
okay. So if Dan, so I need to speak with Dan to find out what level of engagement he is. If he's taking the lead on RChain voting, DApp, then have him review these 4 methods And so how do you guys feel? Do you feel the person who's in charge of the voting DAP, one individual should make that determination of what method to use, or should it be, you know, I guess
Maybe
all
maybe
of
we
us
can
involved?
maybe we can build a vote app to know which method is the better.
Oh,
I think that, either we can come to some kind of agreement, or we can take multiple paths.
okay. Yeah. Why have just one method, have multiple methods? Okay. I mean, that really opens up the possibilities. So, and I think, the underlying factor is, this engagement, from multiple people. So, or here, let me just throw out some ideas. This is just an idea. So method 4, Raphael, since you were, the brain behind that, what if you were to create method 4, and you just create that, and then, and Jim, I think you were method 1. What if you were to create method 1? And I'm not sure who's has the ownership of, well, Greg has the ownership of 3 and 2, and perhaps, we could, Dan could create method 2 and 3. So I don't know if that's,
Method 2 is Theo's, right?
oh, that's
Oh.
right. No,
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel about, having individuals do work that may not necessarily be used, but in a sense it would be used, because we can test out the 4 different methods, and it could be, and in that process, evaluating the 4 different methods, the other 3 methods could update, how they work. There's a learning aspect to all this.
It sounds like this should have been a competition, like that ideathon.
The
And
DAP
then
idea.
people can vote, like how much this approach is easy to use, and how anonymous it is, and stuff like this. So it can have different attributes to vote on.
Yeah. So
Yes, I guess, of course, the method of Theo is very much more zero knowledge related.
Yeah, with my approach, it should be possible to somehow achieve total anonymity, to a point that not even co-op knows who voted for whom. That's kind of why I suggested that. But it might require some more research. I can't just do it in like a week or so. It's just a library that provides some basic functionality, and you have to figure out how to use it to make something functional.
okay. So well, good. This was very helpful. Okay. Well, we've got about 9 more minutes before the community debriefing.
And I added a comment to method 3. He says, implement a methodology like last time. Method 1 is a mirror of what we did last time. So I don't know how it's different from, and I don't know what, we did not issue rev addresses or rock addresses or anything last time. So I think Greg has some explaining to do.
Okay. Well, when we discuss this with him, we will certainly be better prepared to talk about it. But I just kind of think about this arbitrary timeline that, whether it's realistic or not, there are dates, and the big date that I'm concerned about is the last one, the October 24th annual RChain cooperative membership meeting. So we gotta kind of keep that in the forefront, and between now and then, just kind of be making some progress. So when that date comes, and when we have to have it, in September, long before, have it kind of working and get so that the governance committee feels comfortable and confident that they have a tool that will work. So
yeah, we should do it 2 or 3 times
yeah,
before we do it for real.
right. Have some type of other right. Some type of other mass voting going on to really put it through its paces. Without that initial I don't know what you would call it, these trials, real population trials, where your sample size of the testing is the same sample size of the actual use case. And that way, if you're doing sample testing with 2,000 people involved, then that you can start to feel confident that your solution's working. But that's a good point. The sample size testing needs to be comparable in nature to the actual use case sample size. So yeah. Okay. Well, I feel glad. I'm glad that I know we used up a lot of the member hangout time for this, but it's always open for whatever direction the discussion goes. But this is something that I've been, past couple of days been thinking about, and we had been started this conversation a month or two ago, and it's just progress has been very incremental. So this was another big big step forward, I think.
I am currently working on some idea Greg had and shared in some in RCast emission, and so I'm building something that is a bit close to this kind of stuff. Basically, I'm just building something around a ERC 1155 contract that has arbitrary amount of tokens, but it's kind of the same stuff. This is why I see it very much feasible with existing solutions like ERC 1155.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's, whenever we can leverage features that are being in development, and just a little offshoot of that feature, and use it a different way, that's smart development, for lack of a better word. Leveraging what already exists or what's in development. So so that's great, Raphael, if you're able to leverage what you're working on, and just so this is as far as a use case, this has very broad, this is publicity as well. I think about it from a a public relations standpoint of, hey, RChain is the annual general meeting is using its own platform as a mechanism for voting. I mean, just that communication, that messaging really speaks volumes. And I think as that comes to be and kind of gets to be, spread in the community of what's happening with this, so it speaks to you know, people having more confidence in the platform, you know, being, you know, feeling better about it. You know, there's a lots of positives. So in that regard, yeah, and Daryl, if he Daryl's watching the video, and if he's made it to this point, I think this is maybe more of a marketing and communications component of this, of how at the annual general meeting that RChain is using its own platform to conduct voting. So there's a marketing component to this as well. So I'll mention that to Daryl if he doesn't make it all the way through the video, but yeah, that's important.
I wonder also how likely are the companies to use a solution like this, especially if it kind of provides some sort of anonymity as well.
Well, you know, that's yeah, you know, it's now here, you know, you will have a use case of 2,000 people that have used it, you know, becoming road tested. And then that speaks to, you know, what is the marketability, the commercialization prospects of something like this. And, you know, I did a little preliminary research from a marketing aspect of what is out there. And so it's probably too premature to talk on that, but I have, Theo, just to let you know, going back maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I, you know, just did a little cursory research and some thinking on the market viability of this, and what would be the target market, you know, those types of things, and rebranding it with a new name. I've got a, you know, a brand, another name that's RV 2020 is a placeholder. I suggested Dan just come up with a generic name. So in the event that it's more like a project name, but we eventually come up with a product name for commercialization, where, you know, we identify a target market, you know, all those things that you think of and speak to. But yeah, exactly. You know, there's certainly more potential to this beyond the annual general meeting, and then, you know, once we get closer to that point and beyond it, you know, we can start to have some more of those types of conversations. So it's 2 o'clock now. So why don't we drop off and head on over to the general meeting, and I'll see you guys over there. Okay. Hey, thanks everybody. I appreciate your insights.
Bye.